Welcome to Signature Required. It is intended for Tennesseans by Tennesseans. The heart of a Tennessean, the volunteer state, is serve, and we do so largely without self-promotion.
And these are genuine people that get up every day and want to make art, or want to educate the nations, or want to have a heart of love in a way that makes a difference.
Learn from 50 years of experience, take a nugget away, and then go share it with a friend. James Pond, President and CEO of the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. Welcome to Signature Required.
So honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
So it's abbreviated GELF, which I kind of like that abbreviation. It's memorable, but I really don't have much understanding of what the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation does, your role. So for anybody else that's never heard of it before, what do you do?
Yeah, so Governor's Early Literacy Foundation is a nonprofit organization. We were started and founded by Governor Bredesen back in 2004 in an effort to really meet the early literacy needs of Tennessee. When I came on in 2019, we went through an entire evaluation of kind of how the foundation might be able to grow, and we really looked at two central ways that we could meet the needs of early literacy in our children and families, and that was through building home libraries and building communities through literacy. And so we changed the name from Governor's Books from Birth Foundation to Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. It's really taken, and to your point, GELF is a little easier to say than Jibbabuff.
This is a topic that Carly and I care a ton about. There is overwhelmingly compelling evidence that your reading level, if you're not reading by third grade, your economic future is virtually sealed. You will not escape where you come from, almost certainly. And so it's a really, really important topic that I wonder if you just give us a little bit of history. Did Bredesen do this while he was in office? Was this a part of an appointed position? Like, how has this evolved over time?
Great question. And there's a little bit of mystique to some of this because of some of the characters that are involved. But Governor Bredesen really had a vision for how do we meet early literacy needs here in Tennessee, and what could we be doing? And the conversation that was happening at the time was, from the time a child's born until they're 5 years old, you've got this ability to really imprint on a child, seeing books and hearing vocabulary, having books read to you, having that tactile experience with a book could have a profound impact on children. Dollywood at the time had been running Dolly Parton's Imagination in a library in about 9 counties with some level of success, but really couldn't take it to scale. And so there were some conversations that were happening about how could this go to scale, and how could the state of Tennessee really benefit from taking something as profound as Dolly Parton's brand and helping bring that to every child in the state. There was a Senate bill that created the foundation, and then there was a separate funding for the Imagination Library to happen. And it was actually a really genius move on Governor Bredesen's part, because it could have been something that was state funded. He could have named it after him, and there was some suggestion it should be called the Bredesen's Book from Birth Foundation. And he declined for two really key reasons. One, he wanted it to live beyond himself, and he didn't want his name on it. And second was he wanted it to be a 50-50 public-private partnership where there was ownership in each county to really take control of these are our children that we're serving. And so it is a 50-50 public-private partnership. We manage the state's half of that for all 95 counties across the state. And then each county has an entity that manages the other 50% of that. And so it has been around for 21 years, existing under that model, and has been highly successful doing such.
Mm-hmm. We've been really lucky in our state to have governors that care about literacy. I know Governor Bredesen, Governor Haslam, Governor Lee, a lot of the First Ladies initiatives have been around literacy and early childhood. Sure. So tell me what makes this special that it has transcended. I know you said Bredesen didn't name it after himself, but how have you guys evolved with technology and the new learnings that we're finding about literacy in kids to keep this relevant administration after administration.
Yeah. This is one of the least controversial things you can be talking about.
Yeah, people don't get mad about teaching kids to read.
No. You want to talk about, vaccines or something else, you've got some controversy. But when it really comes down to it, I think literacy is a bipartisan issue. It's actually a nonpartisan issue. And I think each governor coming in has seen the value. I'm not only continuing this, but under Governor Lee, we were able to almost triple our impact and triple the weight and impact of what we do as a foundation. And so I think that, for Governor Bredesen, there was obviously value. For Governor Haslam, when he stepped in, Chrissy was such a powerful first lady. We call those the Camelot years. She was very close to the foundation. I think she helped really elevate what was happening with the foundation and the work that we were doing around Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And I remember in 2019 meeting with Governor Lee and talking to him, and he had asked me, what do you foresee? And I kind of shared with him a little bit about the vision that I had for the foundation moving forward. And he said, I just want you to go out there and make some big dents in what we're doing around literacy. So I think, even as we are coming up on an administration change, whoever our new governor is, I think will also find some real value in what we're doing as a foundation. And it also helps, I think, elevate the state of Tennessee. There's a lot of firsts this foundation has had, which I'd love to share with y'all, that make Tennessee a really unique place.
So how is it distinct from what Dolly Parton has done? And how do you think about those two things? Because it feels in a way that it could be competitive with one another, but I'm sure it's different. So how do these things work together?
Yeah. So one of the misunderstandings most people have is that the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is a program. It's a program that is paid for by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. I think most people might think that Dolly Parton gives these books away or that she somehow, pays for them. They are not. This is a program that is supported by the state of Tennessee. It runs, about $25 a child per year.
Taxpayer funded.
Taxpayer funded. Okay. And so, really it's that public-private partnership. So a lot of it is just individuals who really care about literacy. It's our state that values it, and it has a set aside that is delineated just for literacy. So I think there's that portion of it. And so it's really a program that we do. It's not something that competes with anything else. And so what we've done as a foundation is really looked at where there were other opportunities to serve children during those vital years as they're learning to read before they read to learn. And so we saw two really key opportunities as I stepped in 2019. We were providing this amazing program for all of our children from birth to 5, but there were two other gaps. One was caregivers. A parent is a child's first teacher, and so you have the most influence and impact on a child's learning journey. If we could reach those parents and give them resources they could use, that would be powerful. The other was that kindergarten to 3rd grade are really, really powerful years that if there's not built on success of a child continuing to have access to high quality literacy materials, being encouraged to read, having visibility of what literacy actually looks like during those years, that can be the fallout. You can have a child who is very kindergarten ready, and by 3rd grade, they have no interest. We've also seen where children are not interested by 3rd grade. Beyond that, you've got an 8th grader who doesn't care about reading any longer. So you don't have a lifelong learner. You might have a proficient reader who can read, but if they don't read, it's like Mark Twain said, there's no advantage over a person who can read and doesn't read.
So did I read correctly that you've been working with Scholastic to serve these kids that are kindergarten through 3rd grade? And when I read that, all I could think about was the Scholastic Book Fair. When you bring that pamphlet home and then you go and you take all your allowance money and buy all the things. It was the highlight of my career as an elementary student. And so
I remember those days. Those were good days.
They were so, you could almost smell the grilled cheese sandwiches in the cafeteria when you shop that Scholastic booklet.
Yeah, with the Clifford plushies and the fuzzy pencils.
Yes.
James is probably about to crush all that down and be like, it's all digital now. It doesn't exist. Pamphlet's been obsolete for 10 years. No,
it does all exist. And one of the powerful things that we were able to do here in Tennessee is we had been working with the state of Tennessee on how we could serve kindergarten through 3rd grade students. And I met with Speaker Sexton, and we had been talking about the value of what could happen if we were able to continue providing kindergarten through 3rd grade students with really high quality reading materials and resources. going into 2020, the state said, we really want to make an investment in this. We want to make this launch. By March of 2020, that was all off the table, and there was no spending happening. We ended up with a pocket of money as COVID kicked off through some of the ESSER dollars. We went to Scholastic and said, you guys have never delivered books into the homes of children. It's always been schools for the book fairs. And I said, how would you guys like to change your model and start delivering into homes? So we were the first organization, the first state to ever have Scholastic books delivered into a child's house. So we were able that just within that short period of time to serve about 67,000 kids at the beginning of COVID. And then as things began to open back up again, we had conversations with our legislature, and they said, well, we can't do this all at once. Why don't we do it year over year? So we're going to do rising first graders, rising second graders, rising third graders, and then we'll kind of roll this program out. We were also the first foundation to ever roll out a statewide caregiver engagement program. So we were serving almost 250,000 parents and caregivers. So what we did is we worked with Parent Power. They had a program called Ready for K that was a text-based app that sends an SMS on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday that are age and grade appropriate texts to parents to give them some skills, knowledge base, and activities that they could do with their kids. We thought, 98% of Tennesseans have a smartphone, so getting an SMS text is completely possible. Second, we were concerned about the retention rate because all of us get texts from businesses and we kick stop pretty hard. This has an 89% retention rate. So that means that 90% of these parents continue to get these texts, and we get comments year over year of these have been the most meaningful pieces of information and knowledge and activities that I can do with my children that actually are helping me become a better first teacher to my children. So we've been doing that now for the last 4 years.
So you're texting caregivers. Do they have to opt in, or did you somehow, through some spidey way, get all of the phone numbers of every parent with a small child at home?
Yeah, we did. We learned a really powerful lesson very early on as we were experimenting because we tried a process of having parents opt in. Teachers are already busy enough. Parents are already busy enough. Giving them one more thing to opt into was just too challenging. So what we did is we worked with the school districts and we said, would you do an opt-out process with your parents? And so they actually will screen parents asking if they want to opt out, they can. It's a very low opt-out number. And so then everyone will just receive a text that says, hey, your child is in, whatever grade, do you want to receive these texts? They press C to confirm, and then they start receiving the text. And it's been a really powerful program to see parents involved with across the state.
That's a much better business strategy. It's like, send C to confirm that you care about literacy. Alternatively, if you don't care about your child's literacy and kind of think it's overrated, then feel free to opt out.
Send a giant X.
Exactly. And we do the same thing with kindergarten through third grade, the book program. And the opt-out rate it's sub 1%. I just can't imagine a parent saying, I don't want my child to have really great books that they could read over the summer.
I'm curious, tell me, I'm always looking for tips. What are some of the ththings, the tools? Like I have a 6-year-old. What is a tool or an idea that might get sent to me if I opted into this?
So one of the texts you might see for a 6-year-old is, the next time that you're doing dishes, have your child count how many forks and spoons and knives are going in the dishwasher. If you're in the grocery store, have your son identify how many orange things they see and name them. And those are building those vocabulary literacy skills that are helping them when they sit in front of a book, just amplify their ability to learn and enjoy reading as an activity.
See, I love that because I've said on the show before too, we had 3 kids in 3 years. And then just when they were starting to pull themselves together, we had another kid and then COVID hit, right? I studied children's literature in college at Vanderbilt. It's always been near and dear to my heart. But I found myself so in the weeds as a parent that daily trying to sit and read and keep everyone alive felt like too many things I had to do. And gosh, do I wish somebody had just said, hey, you're already doing dishes. You're already shopping for groceries. You're already sorting laundry. Here are ways that you can build literacy and find motor skills and things like that, as opposed to putting one more thing that I felt like I was failing, which was let's sit and sing Kumbaya and read a story on the couch together. That never happened.
That's right.
And I think it led to a lot of mom shame for me for a long time that was hard. And so I really love what you're doing there.
And you're bringing up something that's really powerful. Here you are, an educated, engaged, involved parent, and you still had struggles. And I think everyone needs a leg up. The other thing that we recognized is here in the state of Tennessee, we have a number of grandparents that are the primary caregiver. So imagine if you're intimidated, or I'd be intimidated. If I'm a grandparent, well, I guess I am a grandparent, it'd be pretty intimidating to sit down with a book and what do I do with this thing? And how do I know I'm not screwing it up? I don't want to do something that's going to be at a deficit for my child or for my grandchild. And so I think this is just one of those tools that we're putting in a toolbox that just makes it easier and just starts to feel simple. It's not complicated. It's actually really easy stuff.
James, we've gone through a little bit of what GELF is. Let's talk about your background and some of your history. So who is James Pond and where did you come from?
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm really jealous of folks who know what they want to be when they grow up. They go to college, they do that, they pursue a career. My career looks like a giant squiggly line. Growing up, I had a lot of very hard blows.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in California.
Okay.
I grew up in the Bay Area. Had a family circumstance that my father was taken away from us. My mother became unmoored is probably a kind way to put it, and just wasn't able to handle having kids at home. My mom and I fought all the time, and eventually I was unwelcome at home and was told to leave. I was a homeless teenager for about 4 months, lived on the streets, learned to eat out of trash cans and cafeteria leftovers. And one day encountered my English lit teacher who knew that I was not doing well. And he invited me to live with him. So as a sophomore, middle of my sophomore year, I had about a 1.2 GPA. Was on the verge of probably going to jail. I'd been arrested for inciting a riot and all kinds of other problematic teenage things. And he brought me in and he said, there's 3 rules. 1, you can't tell anyone that you're living with me because that wouldn't be kosher as a teacher at the time. 2, you can never miss another day of school. So I can't tell you the number of days I went to school sick, strep throat or a fever or whatever else, whatever cooties I had. And then 3rd, we're going to read, and we're going to read a lot. And he gave me a renewed love and passion for books that I didn't have. And I didn't realize how much that means. And I think that's the flip side of this literacy journey that we're on, is that if we're concerned just about a child's proficiency by 3rd grade, we're missing something really powerful. I wasn't a strong 3rd grade reader, but I'm a voracious reader now because someone gave me a passion and a love for books that I could see them being a transformational power in my life. Couldn't go to college after high school. I did graduate with a 3.86. Which I'm very proud of.
Wow.
That's a big turnaround.
That's a huge turnaround.
That's a big turnaround. I was forced my junior and senior year to take all AP classes. So this teacher that I had been living with helped me pick my classes for the next year. There was no slacking. There was no woodwork or commercial art in my future, and just in order to get my grades up. But I had taken the SATs. I came home that night and there was an envelope sitting on the table, and he said, kid, come take a seat. And he said, there's 2 conversations we can have. There's one where we open this envelope, we have a conversation about that, or we don't open the envelope and we talk about joining the military. And so I ended up joining the Marine Corps at 18. Served 8 years working in intelligence and special operations, traveled all over the world, and got out. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I worked as a private investigator for a while, swung my hand at a couple of different things. I even tried being a loan broker, which my chief financial officer will die if she ever knew that. I have a hard time just juggling 3 numbers at a time. But eventually got involved in corporate business, worked in corporate business for 10 years. And in 2003, my wife and I had 3 young kids. They were 15, 12, and 9 at the time. And we watched a Dateline special called Children for Sale. It was about kids that were being trafficked in Southeast Asia. And so we did what any normal family would do. We quit our jobs, sold everything we owned, and we moved to Phnom Penh.
Wow.
And lived in Cambodia. We set up programs for sex trafficking victims for girls between the ages of 9 and 17 and helped them to heal from trauma, find a future, get an education, learn to be the young women that they were designed to be. And so worked in human trafficking about 11 different countries over 12 years and kind of realized like, this is my life. I really want to just give back to the world. In 2015, I worked for a veteran service organization that helped veterans find alternative therapies instead of using drugs, medication, alcohol, helping them find mindfulness-based practices to deal with pain and trauma. And then in 2019, this came into my view, and I just had such a love for books and their ability to transform our lives that this has become my future. So for the last 7 years, I've been doing this, and it brings me just tremendous joy.
I have to ask because it is foundational to my faith and my belief that the Lord doesn't waste any hard thing. And that even though you had a squiggly line, as you say yourself, I would imagine that there were pieces of that puzzle along each step of the way that led you to do this work and advocate for kids and caregivers to bring literacy to the forefront. So what do you think, besides your love of books and that incredible teacher that taught you that books can change your life, what do you think you learned from being in service, from trying to end human trafficking, from all that makes you uniquely qualified to do this?
Gosh, that's a great question. Qualified, boy, that's tough. I don't think anything qualifies us. I'm flawed and trying to put myself together every day. But I think, hard things really do become a teacher. I think seeing children having value regardless, this work has been tremendously eye-opening to travel across the state from very rural places in Tennessee to very, metropolitan places, and to see that children are children are children. We like to think that, Memphis is different than Nashville, Nashville's different than Chattanooga, but kids are kids. They all have value. When they learn to read, it opens up a possibility in their life. And I think if we can begin to value kids from just that perspective, it could open up a whole lot for us as a society to see children not just as a dotted line of a proficiency score, but a person who's going to be in society living right next to your kids and my grandkids. And they're going to be the future leaders of our country and our businesses and the places that we live and work and breathe.
James, we've got a lot of really incredible backstories on the podcast, but that is sensational. And I have to ask some questions because I cannot let you out of here before I learn some about that story. So to go back to the beginning of your story, did you have siblings that were at the same time going through what you were?
Later in life, they did. They continued to live with my mom. My brother struggled. He was a part of a gang, and when I was a young married Marine living in Fallbrook, just outside of Camp Pendleton, my brother came to live with us as a dependent until he could join the Coast Guard. So he joined the military and moved on with his life. My sister later, and I actually saw this paperwork this last weekend, I sued my parents for custody of my sister, and we finished raising her from the time she was 15 until she finished high school. So yes, I have siblings, and they've been an intimate part of my life since then.
Are you the oldest? And those are two. What's the age gap between?
3 years between me and my brother, and 7 years between me and my sister. Wow. And gosh, I was unprepared to be a parent at 22 years old.
Especially parenting teens. You really jumped into the deep end.
Especially when it's your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the no crap factor is really narrow.
Yeah. Your wife must be a saint, is all I'm saying.
She is beyond a saint. Yeah.
And we hear a lot of these stories of a really influential person that has come along that the Lord puts in your path, and that teacher. Can you tell us any more about that dynamic? Because I don't want to do anything that puts anything out of bounds, but just I think it's so heroic what happened and risky and incredible. And so I just would love to learn anything you can share further.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's very, very old and a little bit senile. And so it's very hard to get a lot of history. But I can tell you that he's of Syrian descent. His great-grandfather was one of the last Sikhs in Syria at the time. He had a tragedy where he lost his son at a very early age. And I think he was just living vicariously through wanting to care for other kids. I found out afterwards that there's about 13 of us that over the years, over the decades that he had taken in and helped. Many of them, one is a world-class surfer. One of them is an actor that if I name them, someone would know who that was. But people that have achieved things in life. And so I feel a very strong sense of gratitude that he reached out and gave me an opportunity that I otherwise wouldn't have had.
That's an incredible story.
I like what you say about risk because I was literally reading commentary on the Book of Esther today, and it just said leadership is never without risk. You always lead from the front, and you always have to go first and do the unthinkable. It's only in retrospect that it looks incredible, right? Because you turned out and you're here on this couch, but that is really scary to take a kid that is 2 steps away from jail, bring them into your house, and give them these 3 rules out of nowhere. And but leadership is really powerful, and it's not without risk. And I think that has played out in your life time and time again.
Yeah, well, I love that, and I actually lead that way. I think a lot of times you look back and you go, wow, that was pretty cool. It didn't feel cool at the time. It felt very scary, very nerve-wracking. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And I just can't help but further in your story, when you talked about you've got a family of your own, you see the Dateline special. Is that what it was? Dateline special, children for sale, pack up your whole family and move overseas. Give me some description of that. Like, what was your wife's reaction to that?
Your kids' reaction to that?
And I mean, what exposure or context did you have to move to Asia, right?
Yeah. So I had some connections at the State Department, having worked in intelligence for a number of years, and I had been out just long enough that I still knew some folks. So I contacted them and I said, hey, I saw this Dateline special. Is this real or is this just a bunch of media hype? And he said, no, it's real. I can actually connect you with some folks in Cambodia. You should go see it for yourself. I took a team over there for 13 days and we assessed the situation, met with folks, what's needed, what's happening. At the time, what we thought were there were a lot of foreign pedophiles that were traveling overseas to abuse children in other countries. And so we had thought what was really needed was kind of like a witness protection program, get these kids safe long enough to testify against their predators. What we discovered when we got there is that these are young girls that really want to move on with their lives. They want their lives back. They don't want to be seen as this victim or this thing, this identifier. They just want to be people. And so we wanted to create programs that were about restoring that for these young girls. I came home from that trip, delays at the airport, all that. I got home at like 1:30 in the morning. My wife meets me down in the foyer of our house, and she said, I know we're moving to Cambodia. Can we talk about it in the morning?
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, this woman knows me so well. In fact, on this podcast, she said, if you clear your throat, I know exactly what's going on. So, but the next morning we talked as a couple and had said, like, this feels like a profound calling. Like, this is something that we should do. But we need to talk to the kids. For any parent who has more than one, you know that if you get them in a group, they're like wolves. They will gang up on you. So we divided and conquered.
Yeah.
We divided and conquered. So we
wise.
took each one of them. My daughter was a freshman in high school, and that morning that I was having that conversation with my wife, she said, man, I have the best friends. I'm having the best year. I never want to move.
Oh, gosh.
Like, oh yeah, this is not going to go well. But she was just such a beautiful human. She said, like, I just feel like this is what we need to do. My son made a really interesting observation. He said, if this is about you and mom going to do this, like, I don't want to be a part of it, but if we get to be a part of it, I'll do it. And so my son and my youngest daughter actually did a lot at the shelter working with girls. He ran a sports program and did like soccer and volleyball and other things to, just be a great human being. And then my youngest daughter, who was 9 at the time, was like, if it has elephants and monkeys, like, I'll go. So we worked on that. I think we may have oversold it, but they were all involved and engaged. And I think while it was difficult and challenging, we left with one-way tickets and 15 suitcases. And it was an experience. It was life-changing. And I think they're different for it. We're different for it. I think the girls that we got an opportunity to serve are different for it.
how do you feel that your time there was completed? Like, that's such a significant turnover. I guess you all homeschooled while you were there?
No, our children had the privilege of being able to go to an international school,
Okay.
which was really powerful. In 37 different countries there. Our kids got a very powerful education, had wonderful, wonderful friends. You're in the right place when kids get together because they need each other, not because they're trying to be up to something or doing an activity. It was that they really cared and needed one another and had really deep friendships that they still have to this day.
Yeah. And so how did you know that the time was closed?
Any good leader knows when they've reached their maximum capacity, when you've done the work. What we wanted to do is we wanted to be on the forefront of really helping people understand what do girls need in care. I think there were a lot of theories around, they need this really intensive therapy and they need all these other things. These are kids. These are kids that just want their lives back. They want to play. They want to be normal. They want to do things that kids do. So we did a lot traveling to other countries, helping folks understand, like, here's what these survivors actually need. And then right around 2015, there were some transitions. We could just see the world of kind of counter-human trafficking moving in a direction of thinking about policy, technology, things that just were not in our wheelhouse. And I knew it was time to step out and look for where I could use my leadership skills in some other way.
With all those changes in the marketplace around human trafficking, is that what made you look outside that for your kind of next career pivot? Because there is so much to be done here around that same issue.
Yeah.
What led you to literacy?
Yeah. So real quick, while we were here in the U.S., we were getting really heavily involved in working in other states around trafficking of American girls here. And so we had done some work in Chicago, in the Bay Area.
And this is before you left? Okay.
Yeah, in Oregon, and then here in Tennessee. That's what brought us to Tennessee. And so really thinking through that issue, once that kind of began to culminate, we knew it was just time to make a shift. I looked at where I really wanted to spend my energy. And I realized, having been a Marine Corps veteran, knowing so many other brothers and sisters who had served, we'd just been in a 2 decades long war where fathers and sons were serving together in Iraq. That there's just something very heartbreaking about that. I really wanted to give back to them. After doing that for a few years, my wife politely and lovingly said, I just want to be a grandma. Can you do like a normal job? And so this is as normal as I can get. And so when this job came up, I applied. I waited 4 months. I heard nothing. I thought they had hired somebody else for the position. But the more I thought about it, the more I was really intrigued by this idea. Books really are transformational. I'm sure each of you could name a handful of books that have had a profound impact on your life. And I really wanted to give that to other children. So when this opportunity came up, I just saw this as a really, really powerful way to use my leadership skills and to continue making a difference in the world and give my wife a normal job.
What are those books for you?
Oh, gosh. Right out of the starting gate, Moby Dick was given to me by my teacher when I left for the Marine Corps. You're going to make me tear up. Profound book on letting go of hatred and resentment. Yeah, that was quite so. I got to read it while I was on the North China Sea on ship.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it was just like these moments. The ship was loud enough and we were in berthing areas. So I could just like cry in my pillow at night. This like 18-year-old kid, like just not wanting other Marines to see me losing it. But it was just this moment of like realizing like, I can either go down this road, I can just keep being angry and resentful and hating the world and trying to kill that whale for whatever it was, or let it all go. And it was just like this moment of like, okay, yeah, I'm letting it all go. Don't need this in my life anymore.
Wow.
So that was a profound book in my life. A book that I'm taking our team through right now is 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. Also a really powerful book about just learning to own your own stuff and live your life in a way that's more powerful and aligned. What else? Oh gosh, you've got me stuck. Give me.
Oh,
one
I
of
love it
yours.
because I love to read
Yeah.
so much, and I always love hearing what other people are reading because think for me, stories, I didn't think I liked to read for so long in my life. And it was one Christmas, and I was probably 12. It was one Christmas, and friends of our family gave me the first 3 Harry Potter books. And it's a cliche of my generation, I guess, but I got them for Christmas, and I had finished all 3 before Christmas break ended. And it was the first time I stayed up all night to read something. It was the first time I couldn't put something down because the picture in my head that I was creating was better than what I could see on the TV experience elsewhere. Then the community impact of that was I was really close to my great-grandma Mary. And she was going blind at the time. And I would call her all the time, and we would chit-chat. Feisty woman, like the best of the best. And I started buying audiobooks, and I would send her what I was reading so she could listen, even though she couldn't read them. And I would read them, and we would talk about the characters together when I called. And it was the first time I could see, because I love people, that not only am I enjoying reading, but I could share that with people across time and space and generation. And so that was profound for me because it was the first time.
One of the things that I would say to your listeners and viewers is, if you are a reader and you're reading a bunch of nonfiction, start picking up some fiction books. I know a lot of folks are like, oh, there's nothing in there for me. But I've learned from literacy experts in doing this work that it's triggering a different hemisphere in your brain. It's triggering other things that are not getting stimulated if you're just reading a self-help book or a business book or a biography. It is intrinsically important for us to be stimulating all of those other areas of our brain. It helps to build empathy, creativity, positivity, self-reflection, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, just huge benefits. So pick up some fiction, pick up some good, it doesn't have to be good fiction. Make it bad fiction.
Just read it.
Yes. Get yourself as much exposure.
I am the queen of not loving nonfiction because I don't know. We went through school. I too got my master's degree. I love theology, right? And so I love to read scripture, and I love to read books about scripture. And Tim Keller is my jam, and the books that make you think all the time, right? But if I'm going to sit and I'm not learning something, I don't want to read what a bunch of other people say. I want to read a story. And I've shame is not the right word. I've been embarrassed about that in myself for a long time because all the smartest people I know love nonfiction. But I do find, as I have to process complex thoughts about my childhood or about raising kids or what it means to be a woman in this day and age, I process while I read novels in a way that it probably took me to almost 40 to be able to say out loud that I am a better person when I'm reading a book. And this month has been insane in our family, kids all over the place and doing all that. And I haven't picked up a book, and I can see the ratcheting of exhaustion in me go faster when I don't have a story in my hand. And I can really see the tie between my mental health and time to read.
See, and you're bringing up this, that is extremely profound, because I would say to you that, you said people who are really smart read nonfiction, but it's really about developing intelligence, and fiction develops a different intelligence. There's 3 brains, right? Your stomach, your heart, your gut. I mean, your head, your heart, your gut. And when we think about reading fiction, it works through all of that process. And so you're developing just a different kind of intelligence. And my wife is a big fiction reader. My oldest daughter, big fiction reader, 200 books a year.
Wow.
And so, these are extremely smart people. It's just a different kind of smart. And so, I tell people, read fiction is good for you. I'm trying to take my own advice, and I'm, really integrating a lot more fiction into my life. But I would encourage folks, pick up some fiction books. It's good for you.
Well, this conversation has made it crystal clear why you are a great leader for the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. Something that, like many of individuals that we get to talk to that devote their life in some way to a nonprofit, it usually is some type of full circle moment for them. That's the why behind choosing nonprofit, because nonprofit in so many ways is hard. You wear a lot of hats and are generally under-resourced and undermanned and misunderstood and all kinds of different things. So if we can bring it back to the foundation work, as president and CEO, there's a lot of things that a president and CEO has to do in any organization, but in a nonprofit where you're wearing a lot of hats, walk us through some of the hats that you're responsible for, because I can clearly see your passion, and I just wonder how that translates into how you get to live it out day to day.
Yeah, I think, at a very high level, it's setting vision, driving change, right? Where are we going? What's the horizon that we're aiming for? So there's always that piece of leadership, but it's really developing a team. I think, there are leaders that lead a company. And so they're thinking about how the company functions. What's the bottom line? Where's our profitability? And I really look at, how do I invest in people? How do I help human beings become the best human beings? Because those are the people that do the work. If I want excellent work, I need excellent people. I don't need excellent work. If I'm driving to the work, I'm missing out on the development of the human beings that are spending time and the vast majority of their week committed to this work. I think the third part of it for me is really looking at all of the mechanisms of what's happening in the literacy front. A lot has changed in the last 6 years. I think a lot of how we're viewing education is shifting. I think a lot of how we're looking at literacy is shifting. We're having a lot of important dialogue around what literacy is and how it works and how kids should be learning to read and why they should be learning to read. So I need to be a little bit of a fortune teller and a trend watcher and looking at where is this all going so that I'm making sure that our foundation is moving in the right direction to really resource children and families in the best way possible. And then there's the business side of it. I came into nonprofit work as someone who spent a lot of time in corporate America. I was very unfamiliar with how dysfunctional a lot of charity work is. And I was very fortunate to come across the work of Dan Pallotta, who wrote another pivotal book I've read called Uncharitable, and it was really about running nonprofits like a business. And I have an executive team and a leadership team that we have the purview of being able to look at the work we're doing as a charity to run it like a business. And as a result, we've been very successful at not having to, rattle our tin can to get support, but to really just be doing some phenomenal high quality work that's attracting, I think, folks that want to support what we're doing.
Can you just give us a scope for the size for whatever is publicly available? I know there is some support from the state, so just help us understand from a annual budget, at a head count of employees, reach, just give us some boundaries.
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of a start and finish. When I came in 2019, we did one program serving about 280,000 children. We're about $4.5 million in annual budget with 3 people. We are now serving almost 600,000 children, 250,000 parents and caregivers. We have 70 storybook trails, 50 book buses across the state. We now have 18 employees, and we've got about a $25 million budget.
Mm-hmm. What are book buses and storybook trails?
Oh, great question. So we really wanted to create communities through literacy. When I started traveling the state and looking at Tennessee, it used to be known as the education state. And so we wanted to create a culture of reading. I wanted people to go places and see books as a very, very normal thing that we do. It's not a special skill. It's not magic. It's just something that everybody should be doing. So storybook trails are outdoor reading activities. We put child height templates of children's books at about a quarter to half mile length that families can walk, read a book together outdoors, which is a great activity to be doing together. Book buses came about really thinking about how do we reach hard to reach children in our state, particularly in rural Tennessee. But as we began rolling this out, we realized there's a lot of book deserts. If you spend any time in Memphis, there are no libraries or bookstores in a lot of these neighborhoods. So we were looking at how do we create mobile libraries that communities could take on and be able to take those books and resources out and create that book shopping experience for kids anywhere they were in the state.
Mm-hmm. Takes you back to the Scholastic book fair. There is nothing like shopping for a book. And it was my mom was a single mom for a long time, and my mom and dad lived in different states, and she worked really hard. And I remember the one thing she would never say no to was a new book.
Yeah.
We would have to say no to other things, but we never said no to a new book.
That's amazing.
And so my kids' library is my favorite part in our house right now. And I agree with you. Not all kids have access to that. I'm lucky that I had a mom that figured out the resources, and now we're carrying that forward. But your heart does break, and it does move you to action to try to make sure that every kid has access to quality reading material that not just that they have to, but that kind of lights them up. Like, when a kid memorizes the book and they're reading it in front of you because they know the words and they want to get to the punchline, like it's magic. Yeah. It's real life magic. Yeah.
One of the things that we learned too is there's sort of three factors. One is when children have a home library of 25 books or more, and the magic number that we're aiming for as a foundation is for every child in Tennessee by the time they reach third grade to have a 100-book library. There's profound research around the likelihood of graduating from high school and other health, social outcomes, that having that 100-book library is an advantage. So access is one piece. Second is modeling. When they see people in the home, not only reading with them, but reading your own book while your children read their book is modeling for them that as an adult, you value that as an activity. It's important that it be modeled. And then the third part of it is really interest. And particularly for boys have a really hard time finding out, what do I want to read? What do I like to read? And so if we can create something that gives children choice, that they can select a book that they really want to read, not that we want them to read or their teachers want them to read, but that they love, that will have a life impacting difference that, having access to books, seeing it modeled can't provide for them, is that ability to choose it for themselves.
So we've talked about so many things that you've added, book buses and storybook trails. Tell me a little bit about OwlFest.
So OwlFest was a really powerful moment for us as a foundation. We'd come into a little pocket of money that was Title I dollars that were going to go back to the federal government. And the Department of Ed had asked us, is there anything that you could use this for? And we said, absolutely. Give us like a couple of weeks. We'll come up with something. We started meeting with different superintendents across the state. We met with a couple of superintendents in Memphis, Shelby County schools. And during this conversation, we said, if there were resources, what would you want for your school? And they bantered. It was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, if we could do this PD. And it was like, oh, this is all boring. Finally, Dr. Rogers and Dr. Bentham, I love these two human beings. He said, I know exactly what I want. I want every poor kid in all of my priority schools to go home with an armful of books for themselves. I was like, that we can do. So we put together what's called OwlFest. So it stands for Opportunities with Literacy. And it is a book shopping experience. It is just like it's better than a book fair. It's better than a book fair. And what we do is we serve every child from pre-K through fifth grade in all of our priority schools across the state for kids to come in and pick 6 books of their own for their own home libraries at no cost to them. And it is a phenomenal experience. It's one of the only direct service programs where my team works these events, serves these children, and gets to interface with the teachers, the superintendency, administrators, and the children that we're serving across our state. And it just has a profound impact. It's a lot of work. It's 4 weeks of hard pushing. They're there right now working events, and it's tough work. It's long days, but it is a profound interface with our why as a foundation and what we do.
So if people are listening to this, you're saying your team gets to interface with that. You have all these events. If people are listening and they feel that stirring, like, yes, books matter to me and I want to help, but I don't know that, do you want, if you had your magic wand, right? Like, is it money? Is it time? Is it connections? Like, what, if somebody's listening and wants to help, what do you need?
Yeah. All of those. Thanks for setting that up. Yeah. Money, time, commitment. And I would say it in this way. I would say it's, as a foundation, because we function as a charity, the more money we bring in, the more impact we're able to have, which is wonderful. We love having volunteers. OwlFest is something that we're looking to do every year. If there are companies out there, if there are families out there that say, hey, I'd really like to commit some time to this, we can set you up with some dates and time frame for when this is all coming together. We would love to have volunteers out there, because while our team does this, it's an amazing event to bring a community around this. So whether you run a small business or a major company, we'd love to have your involvement. And then I think it's connections. One of the things that we've said as a foundation is Governor's Early Literacy Foundation is the best unknown literacy organization in the state of Tennessee. And so we would love to have more people of influence that know what we're doing, the power of what could be accomplished, because we believe in rowing together in the same direction. We started another initiative as a foundation. It's called SELECT. It stands for the Statewide Early Literacy Education Collaborative of Tennessee. And what it is we act as a container for early literacy organizations all over the state to come together and have conversations, dialogue, and collaboration that really help us begin to row together in the same direction. So we bring in literacy experts, we create panels, we share each other's work, really helping to create a cohesive movement, because we're this piece of it, and there's all these other pieces, and we want to come together, be a generous foundation that is there to really be a good partner to everyone that's doing this work across the state. Because there's a lot of organizations doing some very heavy lifting to make sure that children have access and the ability to read.
James, we wrap up each podcast with a couple short fill-in-the-blank sentences. So I'm going to read you a prompt and give you a little blank at the end. You can fill it in with a word or a short phrase that you feel like completes the thought.
Okay. All right, make them short.
All right, there you go. There, you got it. You got it. Number one.
Yep.
The biggest key to helping kids read is blank.
The biggest key to helping kids read is helping them fall in love with books.
Mm-hmm. Number two, when a child builds a home library, they also build blank.
When a child builds a home library, they build a ladder to their success as a lifelong learner.
And number three, Tennessee is leading the way in literacy because blank.
Tennessee is leading the way in literacy because they believe in it and invest in it and take the action that's needed to make progress.
It's really a great privilege to have you on here, James, because your story is a level of full circle that you can only have when you have experienced the types of things that you have from a young age. You possess authenticity. To spend time with you here is to see the impact that literacy has had on your life. And I think you'd probably say, but at least from my perspective, saved your life. Certainly made it very different than what it was likely on the trend to be. And for you to be able to now sit in the seat that you sit in and impact hundreds of thousands of kids. What an incredible multiplication of your gifting. So at least in your effort to be able to have Guelph more known across the state of Tennessee, we are thrilled to give you that megaphone and to help you become a little bit more well-known for the really important work that you're doing. So thank you for telling your story and having the opportunity to shine a light for how other people can make big decisions, bold decisions in their family to do something. And who knows, maybe this is somebody's Dateline, right? This could be a Dateline moment for somebody. At least they don't have to move to Asia in order to be able to participate.
Or do they?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, thank you. It's very, very humbling to think about it in that perspective, but I appreciate the opportunity to be on with both of you.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, thank you.
James Pond, President and CEO of the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. We spent more than half of the podcast on his story. I mean, he has an incredible journey that if you look at the probability that he's sitting here in this chair, I mean, it's way below 1%. And a couple, as we often see, significant moments in life, divine appointments, mentors, changed everything. And I love the theme that we see for people coming back full circle, that what was going on early in their life, the Lord is using, even if you don't realize it, for decades, for something that you're going to be needing to know or being able to draw from, when you're 57 years old.
Yeah. I just think so many of us want to sell ourselves short and count ourselves out and be like, oh, I am disqualified from service because this happened to me, or I went through this, or I have this experience in my background. And I just think every adverse experience is a fresh opportunity to make an even greater impact. His story brings power to what he is doing today. His willingness to do hard things and have a growth mindset and say, you know what? I am challenged, so I'm going to go make a difference in Cambodia today, and I'm going to come back and serve veterans, and I'm going to help make literacy a priority in our state. Would never have happened if he hadn't had to overcome so much in his early childhood and young adult life. Like, it all works together.
I love when we get to talk to nonprofit leaders that talk about the magnitude of the impact. I mean, he started off with 3 employees, already influencing hundreds of thousands of kids. Now they're at 17 employees, and they have multiplied the number of kids of their impact. They have book buses and I think book trails, all sorts of stuff that they get a huge amount of impact per head count that nonprofits uniquely are capable of. Like, nonprofits are capable of tremendous paralysis and waste and mismanagement and lost dreams. But gosh, when they get it right, and Guelph here is getting it right, man, the return on investment with them is substantial.
I really appreciated his discussion about it being a nonpartisan issue. Like, I don't care who you vote for and what your background is. Kids need to learn how to read, and everyone should care about that. It is not just a social impact issue, but it is, to me, I think it's a faith issue. How can we expect kids to read the Word of God if they do not know how to read? So I think it is a social impact issue. I think it's a compassion issue. I think it's a faith issue. It's also a huge economic issue. I mean, how can we expect the next generation to lead and step up and be business owners and politicians and parents if they don't have these skills and we aren't equipping them? So everyone has a stake in making sure that kids read.